Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm here with another weekly wrap-up for you. This is basically finishing out October. One book is from November, but I read 8 books this week. So let's just quickly get started and go over my weekly reads. Okay guys, so let's just quickly go through these. I still have to film another video too where it might be a little later than I wanted, but I do still need to get out my October wrap-up video, so that should be coming later this week. So I plan on filming that today as well. But these are going to be the books from, I believe it's October 27th to November 2nd that week. Honestly, I only have one book from November because we started the fanfic readathon. I hope you guys are joining us. I am reading 2 bigger fics that are like over 200,000 words. So I haven't finished a fic yet. So I just have one book to bring up from that. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. The first couple that I'm going to bring up, I'm not going to talk too much about. These are in the same series. And this is book number 2 and 3 in that series. So I don't really want to give anything away. But I read Mark of Stars and Bond of Destiny by Tessa, Hale. And this is in the Shifting Fate series. This is book 2 and 3. This series just was kind of meh to me. It was okay. I recently, like, her first books that I read are like the Dragon Shifter series that she just had put out. And it was just so good that I wanted to read some more of her stuff. And I think this might have just been okay because I think it was further back, you know, in her first kind of series that she was writing, because the newer series is just so much better. This is a like werewolf kind of shifter situation. She didn't know she was one, and she ends up moving to this town. She had her sister die and in a bad accident with them, and so her, like, there's a lot of like family abuse, like not like physical abuse, but they're pretty neglectful. And then the mom, she was adopted, the mom was like blaming her and stuff, so that was really hard to read in the first book. But she ends up going to this school and she ends up finding her mates and realizing she's a shifter. And I think she has 5 mates. Rowan, Holden, Lucas, hold on. Yeah, so she has 5 mates. And that's the problem I had with this series, is I didn't really distinguish between them very well. I listened to this on audiobook, and I don't know. None of them really stood out to me. Like, there are a few that were like pretty good, but usually in a why choose or reverse harem, whatever you want to call it, I usually have like a favorite guy, and I really didn't. So I just kind of was okay about it. It wasn't that exciting. The second book felt like a filler book, like nothing really was happening. And there was a cliffhanger, which was fine. And then the third book, I think, had a good conclusion, but like I just didn't connect to the relationships as much, and I thought some of it kind of got repetitive. And these are not long books by any means, so it just didn't fully hit for me. So for both books 2 and 3, I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, and I think it was like 2.5 chilies. So it just didn't blow me away. I needed more of a connection between the characters and more like focus put onto the different guys. When you have that many different guys in a why choose, like, it's kind of hard to keep track who's who and who, like, they need to be really just standouts to me. So that's kind of where it kind of fell a little flat for me. Okay, so the next book that I read was God of Pain. This is the second book in the Legacy of God series. If you have are a fan of mine or watch my channel, you've probably seen that I've been doing Rina Kent's backlist. This series really took off, and I had only read like the first few books of hers that I read. That was like the Royal Elite series. And so I went back and decided to read her whole backlist in her reading order. If you are interested, I have a playlist of all my Rina Kent vlogs because I've been vlogging that journey. I did vlog the first book and this book, and I just need to edit it and get it out to you guys. So that will be coming soon. I'm really behind on posting my vlogs, so I do apologize. But this one I actually loved more than God of Malice. I just really, I don't know, I just love the characters. It really connected to me more. And it might have to do with the fact that Creighton, our hero in this, is actually the adopted son to Aiden King, who is one of my favorites. Those are the first 3 books of him and Elsa in the Royal Elite series. And I just love him. He was really alpha, crazy, dominant, almost psychopathic type of feelings, but he is gone and obsessed with Elsa, and I just love that. So this is their adopted son. They do have another son, Eli, and then they adopted Creighton. And Creighton is the very silent, barely speaks, very quiet guy. He has a lot of trauma in his background from when he was... Before he was adopted, he had a very abusive home, and it kind of really effed him up mentally and like what he's into. And so he has a lot of anger with him. He is the god of pain. So he's really into, you know, punishing, and he likes doing that kind of dynamic of like whipping and all spanking and kind of getting off on somebody else having pain. So I didn't think I would really like that, but I really loved his character, and there was so much more to him, and it wasn't like over the top about it. The heroine we have in this is Anika, and she is actually Adrian, I think it's Volkov. Anyway, she's Adrian's daughter, and I didn't love Adrian's series. It was like one of my least favorite. That one is kind of funny because Adrian is like obsessed with punishments, and he's very like lots of spankings and punishments with his woman. And then his daughter ends up falling for somebody that's really into that. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I really loved Anika. Like, she is just this bubbly, like, she's a mafia princess because Adrian is in the Bratva. And she's been kind of raised knowing she's going to be forced into kind of like an arranged marriage for the mafia. And she's going to school. They're kind of, it reminds me of this series is like, it's kind of reminds me of the Kingmakers, where it's like, they're all at like this school together, and they have 2 different schools that are kind of like enemies and rivals. And a lot, like there's one for like the British kids, and then there's ones for the kids from America, which are like the Bratva kids and all of that. So anyways, there's a lot going into the school stuff. But in this book, Anika has been like pursuing Creighton. Like the previous book, she really liked him and would kind of go after him. And he was just very dismissive of her and not interested. She talks a lot. He talks very little. And so she was kind of at the point where she's kind of giving up, you know. She's like, he's not interested. He's not, you know, talking to me, whatever. It opens up where she's actually spent the night at her brother's mansion that they have for that group of, for the American guys. And her brother's very protective and possessive over her. And she was spending the night there, and there was a guy in her room, and he was wearing a mask, and he had set like a fire off in another area on the house, not in the house, but like a different area. And she could tell instantly it was Creighton. And so they kind of interact a little bit. He starts like, they kind of start flirting, texting a little bit. And she finds out like she gets his attention. And he's like, you don't want what I'm going to give you. You wouldn't be able to handle my kinks and like what I'm into. And she's intrigued, but then when she finds out, she's thinking she bit off more than she could chew here. But now Creighton's into her. And so he ends up like volunteering where she volunteers at the animal shelter. And he's kind of like pursuing her, and they end up kind of getting into his kinks. And it's pretty freaking hot. It's dominant. He would go to a club with Landon, and now he doesn't want to do that because all he can think about is her. But his history has ties to her family of why he went through the trauma he went through. So that's going to lead to some major conflict. I just really loved this. I loved Creighton. I think he was such a complicated character. And I loved seeing Aiden and Elsa again. It was great when like Aiden and Adrian kind of have like a face-off moment and they come at each other, and it was fantastic because Aiden's pretty like scary dude. Even though he's not in the mafia, he stands right up to Adrian. So I loved this couple. I loved how she was so devoted to her family. She's so close to her brother. She's willing to like make sacrifices for her brother. Her brother is not going to want her to be with Creighton. They are rivals and they're kind of always going after each other. And you have Creighton trying to find out who was really responsible for all the stuff that happened to him in his past. And then that's going to lead him to some certain reveals that end up happening. So if you want more information or more detailed on that, definitely check out my vlog when I actually post it. But I gave this 5 stars. It is so spicy. I think I gave it 4 chilies. Yeah, 4 chilies. It was just spicy. It was hot. I loved Creighton. I loved their dynamic. And I had such a fantastic time with this one. So absolutely love this one, and I'll be continuing the series in November. Okay, then I read a book. I saw somebody that I follow on Instagram post that they read this, and I think they liked the second book better, and this ends up being kind of like a duet within a series, and this is Off Limits, and I wanted to pick this up because it's a cowboy romance, and I kind of want to read some more cowboy, and it's a new to me author. So this is by Emma Creed, and this is the first book in the Corrupt Cowboy series. And I did really enjoy this book. I gotta say right up front, this is giving me huge Yellowstone vibes. If you love Yellowstone, I think you'll be really interested in this. Not much, there's not too heavy on the romance aspect of this. It is in there, but it's not a resolution. They aren't fully together in this either. So it's like, I just want to warn you that like it feels like a good first book to set up this ranch and this series and all the dynamics into it. But this is a romance between Garrett and Maisie. And Garrett, this is an age gap cowboy. He is kind of running the ranch for his father, but he wants to go back to the old ways of being ruthless and going, making sure their family stays in power and that they have power in the town. They kind of have a rival there that's buying up a lot of surrounding land around them. And his dad is just kind of like gone away from that and, isn't being as ruthless as what like their grandfather and uncle would have been. So he wants to go back to that. And then his dad ends up marrying like this gold digging chick and now she's moving into the house with her daughter. Her daughter, I think she's like 18. And so he's in his 30s, I think like 32 or something like that. So there is an age gap, and she is the stepsister. So it's kind of like a stepbrother, stepsister thing, but you don't really feel that vibe at all. But she's only staying there for the summer because she's planning on going to college. And so she's just there for a short term. But he is very attracted to her, and she is super into him. He starts off really grumpy with her, but then gets very protective and wants to help her. And she's like total city girl and comes to this ranch and thinks like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't have anything to do here. But she slowly starts to really like fall in love with this ranch. She learns to horseback ride, and she loves being with a horse, and she just like befriends people on the ranch and just like ends up really loving this whole ranch. But he basically kind of pretty much pushes her away through most of the book. There is some really good sexual tension between them, but really like not much happens with them. Because they don't end up together at the end. Spoiler alert, like it's obviously a duet. So there is going to be like a time gap, I think, like a few years later. Now she's going to be back type of thing for the second book. But I just want to warn you ahead of time because I don't want you to go in thinking it's like a standalone or that this is going to resolve in this book. It does set up like their relationship and their connection and everything. There's a lot of action that goes on, some twists and turns at the end and stuff that's setting up the series. So I think it was a very good starting off point, but I don't think it's 100% focused on like the romance too. Like it's kind of there. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and honestly, it's like a 1.5 to chili. There's not much that goes on spice-wise, although I did really feel their connection, so I'm definitely going to continue on with the second part. So Then I listened to Using Fejo by Victoria Aveline, and this is the 5th book in the Cacanian series, and I think this is a new favorite. So I loved Choosing Theo the most out of all of them so far, which was the first book, and this book, I loved it so much more. The last few have kind of just been like solid 4-star, okay. The heroines kind of annoyed me. They're all like afraid of commitment and doesn't accept this like mating bond. And like this one just I really loved. So if you don't know, this is an alien series, obviously by the cover, but these humans were kind of kidnapped and taken there for purposes. They're trying to find, there was a bad group that were taking them illegally. They're not even supposed to go to like Earth, you know, or that area. And they kidnap these women and they're trying to mate with them because they haven't really been able to mate with other Cacanians for like many years, and they're having issues, you know, continuing their species. So this is one of the people that have been, they were kidnapped, but they've been rescued and they're kind of staying there. They have to stay there because they're not able to return them back home. But this is, let me see here. Vanessa, and Vanessa really is like the one person there that like needs to get back home. She doesn't want to stay. She needs to get back home because her sister is dying and she like really needs to get back to her family. And so she kind of comes up with the plan that she's good. They do these marriage ceremonies where the women pick the man, and it's like a short-term marriage because they need to figure out, you know, mating bonds and all that and the best thing for mating. So the women get to pick the man. And so she is planning on picking Fejo because she knows that he is kind of like this space pirate kind of guy. And that way she can get on his ship with him. And then when he goes to his next location, she has it all planned out where she'll like basically abandon him, sneak off, and be able to catch this ride to Earth to kind of go back home. Now she had met Fejo. She didn't know who he was previously, that he was actually Fejo, and they had this flirtatious moment, and he was like very intrigued by her, but he's very this suave, like total pirate, sexy guy, and she's just totally thrown off by that. But then she realizes it's Fejo and she has to choose him, and so she has a really good connection with him, and she starts to feel really guilty because she's basically using him. And the thing that really made this book for me is Fejo. I loved him so much. Like, he is like this sexy pirate, but he's also has so much more. He's like a teddy bear inside. He's been kind of trying to get married for a long time and find a mate, but they never pick him. They basically kind of just use him because they can do it trying, where they get to have sex with him. And so he never gets picked, but he gets like, they just use him for sex. So when he actually gets picked, he's so excited. And he really likes her and starts to fall for her. But then obviously there's going to be a reveal happen about what she's really doing. And I just really loved this. I loved this because she did not have commitment issues or not want the mating bond, because you know they're going to be fated mates. And when that kind of clicks into place, she totally accepts it. But there's the added complication of her needing to get home to her family and not wanting to give that up. And how are they going to go from here? So I absolutely love this. It was a great audiobook. It's on Audible Plus if you're interested. I believe the whole series is narrated by Stephen Dexter, who is one of my favorite narrators. So definitely check it out. I gave this one 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, then I read Return to Monte Carlo by Kate C. Wells, and this one was pretty disappointing for me. I love Kate C. Wells. I know she can put you through like the emotional, the angst, the like kind of feelings, but this one just didn't have payoff for me. And it's a marriage of in trouble, and we have Marco and Diane, and you kind of have some flashback or brings up of the past, but basically Marco and Diane got married, and he has like this huge empire back in Monte Carlo, and so they got married in America against his like family's wishes, because he's very rich and has, you know, this influential family. And he basically picks up this bombshell, beautiful, he's an age gap young wife, and moves her out there. And so for like the last year she's been there, and the family treats her like crap. They bully her, they belittle her, and he doesn't stick up for her, and he's basically never there. He's always working and kind of neglecting her. They still have a pretty big sexual relationship, but like nothing else. And so like, and this opens up where like it's her wedding anniversary. She did this party, and the family's all there, and he's not there. He doesn't show up, and so she kind of has a little bit of a meltdown, breaks the expensive urn or whatever it was, and like slaps one of the sister-in-laws, and you know, she kind of loses it, and he doesn't defend her. He doesn't stick up for her. He basically kind of punishes her and is like, you know, you're basically like a trophy wife. He says some really cruel things. And so she basically picks up and leaves and goes back to the United States. And, you know, she's left him. And she ends up getting pregnant. But she does not tell him about the baby. She's been pregnant for a while. I think it's like 4 or 5 months. And so she's finally going to tell him, but she kind of chickens out because his assistant answers and says he's not available, and she can hear him in the background. So it's just, but he basically ends up flying out to America and is like, you're coming home with me, especially when he sees that she's pregnant. And he's basically like, I'll ruin your family. They're dependent on me financially if you don't come out. So he kind of coerces her to come back home. And so she comes back home to this evil family. And then he's supposedly going to try and make it right. My problem with this was he did not do enough of a grovel. She literally was a doormat this entire book. Like, I was waiting for her to like come back and basically stand up for herself, put the family in their place, stick up for herself, to make demands of what she wants in this marriage. And she never fucking does it. There's like a slight little thing where he kind of says something to his family, but it just wasn't enough. It was just constant, like, I didn't like it. And so you really felt like it was mostly a physical connection because they're like instantly being it out, and they're very sexual, and they have these weird sexual dynamics that they like to play and be rough with each other. And it just didn't work for me. I didn't feel their connection. And he didn't work hard enough to win her back. And I wanted her to fucking put that family in their place. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. And then I think it was 3 chilies. Okay, so then I listened to The Cursed by Harper L. Woods. This is the second book in the Coven of Bones series. I don't know, she had set up other stuff going on, like to continue the series, I think with different character storylines, but I haven't seen anything, so I don't know if she's actually doing it or not. But this is the second part of the Coven. And I didn't really love the Coven. I gave it like 3.5 stars. It had a really interesting world building where it's like witches and like their older like generations were like bones and stuff, and just very interesting, like the Coven. And they had these, basically they were almost like vampire type of beings, but they were demons inside like kind of a human type body, but they had to feed off the witches. And then the guy that's like the teacher and head of it kind of thing, one of those guys he kind of goes after our witch. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't really want to fully get into like the whole setup because that was the first book. But this is continuing that story. That one was just I just felt like it was super sexual. Like she never really had a choice because he took her blood, and it kind of made it so he can basically force her to do things. And I just didn't really feel that it was a romance at all, and it was just sexual. And then all of a sudden like he was saying they loved each other or something. I don't know. And then he betrays her in a huge way at the end, and you find out, spoiler alert, maybe I should put spoilers. If you haven't read the first one, you find out that he is actually Lucifer, and he was using her so that he could finally come out in his true form, and then his archdemons could come out too. And so that was the whole plan. But now they're married, and he brings her back to life, and they're together, and she's fighting it and hates him the whole time. So this one was better than the first one, but it was just kind of all over the place. The heroine kind of annoys me. I felt more of a connection between them in this one, and so it was interesting. It just didn't blow me away, and it didn't fully catch me. I wanted more like world building and interesting stuff about like the archdemons and like to learn more about everybody. But so I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars too, and then it was 4 chilies. Okay, then I listened to Legacy by Laura Pavlov. I just started reading the last 2 books of the Magnolia Falls series, and I freaking loved it. So I wanted to read some more Laura Pavlov, and this was on Audible Plus. And this is the first book in the Montgomery Brothers series. It's kind of like a billionaire brothers type of series. And this one was just okay. There was really nothing different about it. It's like the rich guy, the down on her luck girl making something of herself. We have Ford and Harley, and Harley is actually kind of wins this competition or bid type of thing to open up her bakery, her business in one of their buildings, his family's buildings. And they kind of have this instant connection or banter and kind of going at each other, but they're really into each other type of thing. And she has a complicated past with like a really evil mom that put her in dangerous circumstances and is always trying to use her and her grandfather and all that kind of stuff. But they end up getting really into each other and into a relationship. And then it's like all of a sudden there's this third act thing with her mother and shady people to add like this third act thing that I just thought was kind of over the top. It just didn't totally blow me away. It felt very like rushed. And like I didn't fully connect to the characters or the relationship. So it was okay. I think since this is earlier in her series too, like her writing, like it's not as good as what she does with Magnolia Falls, which is like her most recent books. So I definitely get that. But this was on Audible Plus, so it's an easy, quick read. I listened to it in one sitting while I was at work. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, and I think it's like 2.5 chilies. Okay, so the last book that I read was Manscape by Vanessa Hale. I got the ALC for this, so I listened to this on audiobook. It's a very quick read. This was my first Vanessa Vale, and I was not really impressed with this. So I didn't have really any expectations going in, but it was marketed as an ex-boyfriend's dad, and so I was down for it. I immediately requested it. It's the 5th book in the On a Manhunt series. And so it's the 5th book in a series, and it's my first one, but I don't think you need to read any of the other books to get what's going on in this. But I didn't really fully buy into the ex-boyfriend's dad in this, because like the ex-boyfriend was literally, they went on 2 dates. So to me, like, I want ex-boyfriend where they were, like, in a solid relationship. They were together, like, that type of thing. So, but this did have a good setup. It started out cute. It was a very funny, like, over-the-top meet cute where we have Daniel, and this is an age gap, obviously. And he had a son at, like, a really young age. So I think he was, like, 19, and now he's kind of, like, left his business and he wants to go travel and do what he couldn't do since he had his kid young. So he's about to leave town in in a week, I believe. And he's going to be going to Scotland, and he has all these big plans. And then he randomly gets this voicemail from a chick saying that, you know, he's the baby's daddy or something. And like, he's like, what chick is claiming that I got her pregnant? I would never do that, especially after everything that happened to him. And so he goes to find this chick, and she happens to be at the vet's office with a dog, and it ends up being like her boyfriend. His son was her boyfriend, or not even boyfriend, 2 dates, and his dog impregnated her dog, and that's what the whole mix-up was. But he's like instantly like sexualizing her, like attracted to her, all about her physical beauty. She's like this librarian, sexy librarian, but she tries not to be sexy because her mom was like basically like very almost hippie, but like multiple lovers. And she would like encourage her boyfriend to almost be with her, like crazy stuff like that. And her mom was just like this crazy over the top woman. So she didn't want to have that kind of life. And, you know, I almost might be even mixing the mom from this with the last one from Legacy. So I might be totally mixing that up. But I know both the moms were fucked up. So, and these were back to back that I read. So I might be mixing up those now that I think about it. But just whatever. The mom's was crazy. So she doesn't want to draw attention to herself, basically. And so This is my problem with this, was it was so over the top on like physical attributes and being attracted to each other physically, and he's instantly hard for her, and look at her tits and her ass and blah blah blah, like, and oh, I love that sexy librarian look. And it was just overly sexualizing, and she was overly sexualizing him. He's a big dude. Oh, is he big there? And it was just all about that. So this is like instant lust. They end up doing this contract, doing like a contract kind of quick hookup deal before he leaves, and she's a virgin and she's gonna lose her virginity to him. And it just was so like, it's just smut with like literally no connection, no plot. And then like you're supposed to believe that they're gonna fall for each other within like the 3 days they're hooking up, and then he leaves. And then like he wants her to go with him. And I'm just like, I couldn't buy into this at all. And it was just frustrating me because it was just all about their looks. And like they literally knew nothing about each other. So there was no like connection. So I was really disappointed in this. Honestly, if I wasn't doing an ALC, I'd probably give it 3 stars or lower. But I did put it to 3.5 because it is ALC. The audiobook was only narrated by a female narrator, and I thought it should have had a female and male narrator. It just like, it would have been so much better if it was like duet narration, because he is a dirty talker. It is smutty. If you want something that's super quick, just all smut with like no connection, then this would be a good one for you. But honestly, I was super disappointed, and I didn't really think it was marketed correctly, because I don't really call that ex-boyfriend's dad when you've gone on 2 dates. So anyways, 3.5 stars. I ended up giving it 3 chilies. So those are the books that I read this week. Thank you so much for watching my video. Make sure you're subscribing, hit the like button, and leave me a comment down below. Hope you guys are joining us for the fanfic readathon. It's not too late to join. It's going on till the 16th of November, so you got 2 weeks. So hope you guys are joining us. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.